great. I can't see your comments till after the show, but if you come over to UFO Paranormal Radio, the YouTube channel under the same name, we are on the Facebook page where I will see the comments, as well as Twitch and Twitter. We'd love to have your comments. I'd like to make you part of the show. And if you're just joining us, like I say, welcome. If you've never been to my show before, I'll take my glasses off so I can see. In my show, I say interview people from all walks of life. So whatever they're doing extracurricularly or just for fun, but what they're doing is making a positive change for humanity in some way. And that's what I like to talk about. Sometimes we talk about the paranormal, sometimes UFOs, sometimes the paranormal itself. I like to talk about the power of the mind, power of positivity, and sometimes we do a little truth seeking too. We are on YouTube. I forgot to tell my guests that, so we'll have to be careful what we talk about tonight, but we're going to get into some things here. And speaking of my guest, I guess I should introduce myself too. I'm a little off kilter here, guys. Sorry. I'll get into the rhythm. I'm a Canadian clairvoyant medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, a spiritual teacher and mentor. And I also a registered nurse, and I like to say also humanitarian activist and truth seeker too. Now, the guest that I have on this evening, I have been trying to have him on forever. Hey, Dave, welcome. That Dave Petrella has been on the show before, amazing astrologist. So I want to tell you a little bit about him. His name is Chris Matthew. He's the host and creator of Forbidden Knowledge News and the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. From an early age, he questioned the nature of reality, but remained asleep like many until 2012. Got to find out what happened in 2012. He graduated Full Sail University with a degree in digital media and was later an editor at his local television station for 2 years. In 2016, he started a Facebook page for Forbidden Knowledge News as a blog to share the information he was learning during his awakening. As the blog became more popular, he started a YouTube channel and wanted to bring his favorite researchers, authors, scientists, and experiencers on to share their knowledge and insights. This eventually became a talk show and podcast, which has featured some of the most brilliant and extraordinary people on the planet and has gained an amazing global audience. The Forbidden Knowledge Network is a podcast network that features creators, researchers, authors, and regular people just like himself and our mutual good friend Karen Holton, who's on his network, that want to bring knowledge, truth, and a greater understanding to every person incarnated at this critical time in human history. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, Lorilei. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Honored to be here.
We've been trying to make this happen forever. So
yes.
I'm so glad that you're here.
Yes, I'm glad we finally made it happen. It's great.
I'm going to jump right in. And I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but it was one of the things I wanted to talk about, if you're comfortable with it.
Anything goes.
I figured you're like an
I did a presentation last night that basically told my life story, so it's pretty much an open book wherever you.
Do we have enough time for all that?
I condensed it to an hour less, so I think it was pretty good.
Well, we're going to talk about that because you did a conference. We're going to talk about all of these things, but my curiosity is getting the best of me. So what happened in 2012 that you were blissfully asleep, like most of the population in the world, and you had this awakening? What happened?
I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you some of the circumstances surrounding it.
Sure.
I hear this from a lot of people. This is a very important date for whatever reason. A lot of people started to get their wheels turning around this time period. I find that very interesting. But for me, I was getting it was the end of my first marriage. It was a divorce. I was living in Florida at the time, and I decided things weren't working out there, and we came back to my hometown of Louisiana, finalized the divorce, and I had started a new corporate job, the last job I had before this career in talk show that I'm doing now. And I was kind of just bored at work, and things started turning in my head, and I started just watching YouTube videos, finding the weirdest conspiracy stuff, paranormal, metaphysical, just going down every rabbit hole I could. And then I started getting books, start reading amazing authors, doing as much research as I can, because I know that I had a deep down understanding that the world wasn't right from a young age, but I never wanted to explore why. And then around that time, it just started clicking in my brain. Yeah, there's something wrong, and I think I want to find out at this point that
Okay.
there's something internally that's innately bothering me about our existence. That I don't think that it's me that's the weird one. I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe the rest of the world might be a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just looked at every from spirituality to conspiracies to everything, and just started expanding my knowledge base and learning. And that's when I ultimately kind of started the show. I want to share what I was learning with everybody.
You know what? Isn't that interesting, right? Because they call it going down the rabbit hole. And the thing is, I almost look at it like Pandora's box, because once you take that lid off, it's like the whole jigsaw puzzle comes flying out and all the pieces scatter. And it's like putting the pieces together, right? Because once you go down one rabbit hole, you find it starts to connect into another and then another and then another. Would you agree with that?
100%. And even more recently, over the past just year, I'd also say that to add to that, that all roads lead to spirituality or theology,
Mhm.
or the knowing of something besides and greater than yourself. And at least that's part of my journey. And
Mhm.
many that have started this kind of path into the unknown, that's where they end up being. And the ones that don't, know, a lot of people who are resistant to that, they're kind of stuck in the material world of just bad humans, making bad decisions, which that's definitely a part of it. But there's so
Mhm.
much more to it, that brought us to where we're at in humanity, that they don't want to take a look at much deeper aspect of it. And that's where a lot of people stop. And that's only the beginning, really, for me.
It is only the beginning. I was just having this conversation with my partner Dell tonight, and he was talking to somebody from high school about because I'm in Canada, you're in the US, and I consider you guys our big brothers and sisters. Most of my friends are in the US. I mean, we're really inseparable. There's differences, but there's not a lot of difference. Well, maybe government wise and what have you. But he was having a conversation about the education system with somebody he went to high school with. And this person just was just like most people, was reading what the narrative was. And then he had said, "Why don't you come on my show? We'll have a discussion about this," because he's pretty wide awake. Like, I would say most of us are. And as our good friend Karen Holton will say, not woke, but awake. There's a big
Right.
difference, right?
Yes, definitely.
And that's just it. Now, I don't know what it is. I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I almost feel like people that know something's not right or something just doesn't feel right. Most of all of us have that ability to feel things like this. I agree with you that it all connects back to spirituality. We're not talking about religion here. We're talking about, I think, who we are really meant to be. And I think that people stop because it scares them. Because I find the people that have been red pilled, I didn't go through this personally, but I know so many that did. They just go into a deep depression, almost a grieving, that they say, "Oh my God, my whole life's been a lie." Do you think that maybe that's the reason what's stopping people from going any
I think
further?
so. I think, this is a lot to take in, and so much has happened just since 2020 as far as information coming out,
Mhm.
that I can't imagine that if I just started looking at this stuff in 2020, how it would make me feel as a person, knowing that almost everything in my life was a lie. And I
Mhm.
rapidly have to figure this out because all of this is unfolding right in front of my
Yeah.
face. And we're going through this huge major global event collectively. You're going
Mhm.
to have to figure some stuff out quickly. And if you don't, I imagine it could be terrifying. I imagine that a lot of people are in a place right now where they don't know what to do. And
Mhm.
it's like their whole world, everything that they thought once was, is just, it's shattering. Their paradigms are shattering and falling apart right in front of them. And that's where the spiritual aspect had to come in for me,
It
because I
does,
had
yeah.
to, that's the glue that holds everything together. And when you look at it from some of these most terrifying, horrible, black, just scary things that are going on around us, when you look at it from a spiritual lens, it makes it easier to digest and easier to come up with solutions, at least for yourself. And that's the way I've been navigating through it, especially recently.
Hey, Zach, man, I want to say hi. I was wondering where you were. I hadn't seen you in a while. So glad to have you here. He's a big supporter of my show. He's been here for quite a few years. Well, I've been here almost 3 years and before that. So thanks, Zach.
What's up,
Glad to have
Zachman?
everybody else here. You know what? I'm really glad that you pointed out about the spirituality because I have to share something. I've been being sent recently that our government is going through and is going to supposedly with a certain bill. There's so many going through that they're going to cancel any pensions or any disability payments or anything like that. And myself, as well as my youngest son, I'm going to give him a shout out. Happy birthday, Jesse. He'll hear this later. It's his 24th birthday. He's my son that has severe autism.
Oh, happy
And
birthday.
I'll let him know you said. He'll be thrilled. And that affects a big part of our income. And the first place I went to was fear. But I consider myself to be very clairaudient, so I can hear spirit. And I heard them say, take a breath, look for yourself, always look for yourself. Just don't trust what people send you. Take a look or what people tell you. And then the other thing that I kept hearing was every time you've jumped, the net always appears. And that's really what spirituality is, and realizing, right, that we're just having a human experience. We go on forever. I'd love to hear
Yes.
your thoughts, how spirituality has worked for yourself with all of this, because some things are pretty scary.
Yeah, well, it's pretty incredible, the series of events that kind of led me down this path. Whenever I first started this show, I was not spiritual at all. I came from a Catholic family, but I did not practice, and I was, kind of terrified of the stuff myself growing up from, everything that I've been through going through Catholic schools. Eventually said, Mom and Dad, take me out of this crap. I can't do this. So
Me
eventually
too.
I made myself go to a public school because I hated the religious systems. And then it was, I'm doing this show. I had started doing this show in about 2016, 2017. And it's so quickly the series of events that got me to where like I am spiritually now. It's pretty insane because it's only been like about 2 years here. It was 2020, and it was right after the COVID stuff, and I was covering COVID left and right on my show. I was I was going into some deep darkness, and I was going through some dark personal stuff at the same time too. So I was trying to meditate at the time unsuccessfully, because of plenty of reasons. That childhood dogma we were just talking about, one of them, big block for me. I was afraid I was going to get abducted by a demon or something. Just something stupid. So I couldn't go as deep as I wanted to in the meditation aspect. But after a very bad breakup from someone that I eventually had to get a restraining order over, it drove me to really try that meditation again. And one day it was successful. I went so deep. It was so peaceful. But I also connected with something else that, at the time I had no understanding. I thought I was talking to aliens, baby. I don't know. It was it was pretty incredible. I'm sure, if anybody follows me, they've heard this story. If you heard my presentation at my conference just now, you heard this story, but I'll make it as compact and brief as possible because it's kind of long. But I was able to meditate successfully. I made contact with something spiritual in my consciousness, and I know I have a knowing that beyond anything that it wasn't me. The communication was psychic and instantaneous and beautiful. And before I could even finish asking this entity's questions, it would have the answer for me, and it was just the most wonderful. I even told it, I wish I could talk to everybody like this. This is the most efficient and easy form of communication ever, and I was so excited about it. And this kind of contact experience, this first experience, lasted a few hours one night, and the meditation session just turned into me walking around my house talking to this. I didn't know what it was at the time. It was, I know it now. It's one of my spirit guides.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. Now I know it was one of my spirit guides, but, that lasted a few hours, and I wanted, after that, I was like, what the hell happened last night? I had to recreate it. I actually did a few days of these meditation sessions contacting what I know is my spirit guides. And he told me to call him Laird because there's no way I'd pronounce what his real name was, because
Right.
Laird was like my cousin's name and I liked it. So I called him Laird. We have these profound experiences. He takes me on the second experience. He takes me up on a ship in my consciousness, and I'm speaking with many other of my spirit guides, and they appear to me as these beautiful little etheric entities that are like animal hybrids in hoods.
Ooh, love
They're
it.
beautiful little animal hybrid peoples in these green hoods, and they all manifest to me, sending me these amazing feelings of love. It's like the best drug you could ever imagine, but you
Yes.
can't describe it. It's like no love you've ever felt, but it's love. You can tell, and acceptance, and just, we have these conversations. During that time, they asked if I accept a certain task on this planet that I've been given since before. I don't remember the exact words. I wish I did, because every time I try and tell this, I'm like, what did they say? But they basically asked me if I accepted a task that was pretty important to my soul and my existence on this planet. And I said, well, yes, of course. Started crying. Extraordinary experience. Also, at this time I am working a corporate job, and the forbidden knowledge news thing is secondary. It's a hobby. I'm making a couple of $100s a month off of this thing because it's not like my focus. It's fun. It was fun for me to do it, even though it was popular. A lot of people liked it. I just wasn't channeling my energy into it to make a living from it. And my spirit guides, during the first two conversations, this was one of the main messages. You got to quit your job. It's draining your life. You hate it. And I did. It was a corporate day job doing corporate sales. And I woke up depressed every day because of my job, severely depressed. So that was one of the messages I got from spirit. You gotta quit your job. You gotta take that next step. And I'm like, next step, do what? Do this? And then yes, you're already doing it. And I was like, shit. So that was a big one for me to swallow, because I was making a pretty comfortable living doing my cell phone sales and not any living at all doing this.
Right.
Well, eventually time goes by, and it's amazing how things come together when you listen to spirit. You listen to those messages from the universe.
Yeah.
It was a big series of events where my business partner, Corey, he moves in with me because we're like, we're going to save money. We need to get this business going. You hate your job. I need to make money off of this. I'm invested in this. Let's do this. So yeah, let's do it. So I'm at the time, and I'm in Louisiana. He moves in with me, and we get things going. We get some plans going. And the first plan is we got to get out of Louisiana because I hate it there. I was the most low. I was not feeling it there. It wasn't for me. It's low density for me. I needed somewhere else. And he talked about out west in Colorado, and it just kind of resonated with me. Somewhere out west would sound really nice. So we do it. What I did is I took out all my life savings from my job and said, F you. And it was just a leap of faith. We had nothing, I didn't have much.
Jump
the net exactly. That's what exactly. We move out. Next thing I know, we're like, I like to say it like this, we're pretty down and out. It's hard. We're scared. It's pretty terrifying trying to do this, and we have no idea what's going to happen. But one day we look at our revenue on our computer, and it's like, oh my God, we can pay rent today. And then a few months later, oh my God, we can not only pay rent, we can buy food and eat. And it just kept getting better and better. And one of the other main messages that I got from spirit to start implementing for my own therapeutic purposes and to get rid of past trauma is psilocybin and vision quest with mushrooms, basically. Which I started a heavy regimen of, and they also told me this will get you immediate connection to us as well. We'll be there with you the whole time, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You need to, because therapy is BS. So well, it's traditional, at least therapy, that you're so I do it, man. I actually start growing them because I'm in Denver and it's okay. It's cool there. So I grow them. I start my regimens, have beautiful, beautiful conversations with my spirit guides every time, learning so much, releasing past traumas, just great experiences. At the same time, growing the business, learning about life, just everything was amazing. This period of my life was, incredible. And this is the same period, I start doing conferences, and I meet October, and October is a huge part of everything that's happening now. And whenever you want to get to it, there's an incredible event that happened with October and I the other night that I had to add as the final culmination of my presentation, because this experience was the most profound, not only contact experience, but incredible experience I mean, I didn't believe it, but it happened. That's the only way I can put it. And it was, I was basically taken to a different dimension, if you want to hear about it.
I do, because what I want to add to this, I get people messaging me all day long, as I'm sure you do. When we're in this business, you meet people from all over the world, and somebody will say, okay, I had something really weird happen. You're going to think I'm crazy, but I need to tell somebody. And I always say, try me.
Yeah.
Because everything you're saying there, I can't disagree with at all. Your guides weren't wrong. Even being a nurse, you look into the research and using, now again, you've developed that trust. You're an intelligent guy. I wouldn't suggest everybody do this unless without research. But they are proving that going back to using things like LSD and mushrooms and
Well,
drugs like this.
they made sure, no, this is my personal journey with this. I would never suggest anyone else doing that with, their own spiritual journey. This is the way I
No,
was.
but I'm going to support you with this, Chris,
Right.
because research is showing exactly what you have said. Something that may take years and years and years of therapy, which if some people works for, I won't knock it, but you can get so much done. Say in a clinical setting is what I was going to say. They're going back to these drugs and being able to relieve trauma and healing. Something again that would take years of therapy can be accomplished in possibly one or two, settings, I guess, or visits, if you will. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. I'm supporting you with this. Like, absolutely everything you're telling me. I'm getting goosebumps the whole time I'm talking to you. That's usually my sign from spirit. It's not cold in here. But
Yeah.
yes, I love this. So please, let's hear about this. We can talk about anything. I love conversations like this.
Yeah. It's just so incredible what happened, and it just happened last week. So this is a brand new thing, and you're going to be the first show that I'm telling this story
thank
on
you.
besides my own. So thank you for letting me tell it. All right. So like I said, I'm doing a mushroom regimen, and I don't grow them anymore actually, but I do. I know people who do, so I'm able to cultivate a few doses. And I'm going through my vision quest, having beautiful experiences. And during the past, it was probably about almost a month ago, I had gotten my last regimen and started my new kind of series of quests.
Okay.
Before that, it had been about maybe 5 or 6 months before I'd done any mushrooms. So this is a brand new series of kind of therapeutic quests that I'm doing.
Okay.
And October has expressed to me she's never done mushrooms, never done drugs, she's never done anything, and she would like to try them because she knows how the success I've had and the spiritual connections that I've had.
Yeah.
And during these new experiences, I've felt more of a connection to what I call God, source, than I've ever felt before. And the profound conversations I was having, sometimes I'd feel like I was having these conversations directly with source. Like, sometimes I know it was my guides, but something else would come through, so powerful and so beautiful, and I don't know what it was, but it was just and so I'm connecting with this, and I'm having these experiences. And so one day, October and I are free, and I said, all right, you ready to try this? I consider myself a psychonaut. I'm an expert at psychedelics. I've taken them since I was a teenager, although back then I was doing it as a party thing, but I've used them as a spiritual tool for a long time, and I've taken very large hero doses. So I know how to navigate my way through those realms, and I was going to kind of guide her through her experience. So she wanted to have an experience. So I give her not a heroic dose, but enough to feel the mushrooms. For me, at least, I would have definitely. So we both take our dose, and about an hour, maybe an hour and a half goes by, and I'm like, all right, they're working. And I look over, and she's watching her TV program, just looking bored as ever. And she's like, I'm sleepy. I'm like, you don't feel anything yet? She's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. Like this is new, you know. I've very rarely met anybody who's like not immune to them. So I was like, do you want to try more? I mean, you know, they're non-toxic, so you can take as, you know, theoretically as much as you want. She's like, yeah, why not? So I gave her double. And this is like, Dennis McKenna would have been proud of how much she took. And she doesn't feel a thing. Like
Really?
she's like, I'm kind of tired. But she does say, I mean, I noticed this about her. She was like extra confident and like laser focused. It's like she took Adderall or I don't laser, and she said she felt a connection to her guides immediately. Like there was no, she was able to get in touch with the spirit very easily. And I found it fascinating. I'm like, you know, this is very interesting. Well, I guess I won't be guiding you through anything tonight. You know, I was a little disappointed, but I was just really interested. Like, what's going on here? You know? Yeah. So it's a few hours go by. She's just watching her TV shows. She's sipping on some wine, you know, like nothing. Yeah. And I'm like out of my gourd, like, oh my God. So we start to do some therapy for me, some work on some stuff. You know, I'm like, I still have past traumas. I don't know what happened. You know, there's things that are blocked for me. We actually worked to a point where we figured out, like she was walking me through. She's very gifted, intuitive psychic. If you don't know, she was walking me through my memories, kind of walking me there, getting me to where I needed to be. And we got there. And I mean, it was so profound. Like I could taste the ocean water that I was out on the boat on. Like it was amazing. And she found a source of my trauma as a childhood family friend, and interestingly enough, a high-level Masonic priest. And I didn't find that out till the next day when I researched this guy. He's dead now.
Okay.
He died a few years ago, but she said that apparently he's still attached to me in the afterlife in a spirit form.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw him and got rid of him. She was able to expel that. But here's the thing. Apparently it pissed off another attachment that I had really bad. So I had multiple. And I didn't know it. I had no idea I had spiritual attachments.
None of us do.
Yeah, even October didn't know until we started doing this vision quest together, you know. All right, so I thought everything was good, and I thought I was going to have a perfect, wonderful experience with her after this. I did feel this amazing weight lifted. Then she's talking to me. Just a regular conversation. All of a sudden, what she's saying is getting darker and more disturbing and more like evil. And she looks at me and she says, my ship crash landed on this planet a long time ago, and I found you and I fell in love with you, and now I'm keeping you, and you can stay with me forever, right? And as she was saying that, something took over my perception. It took over my perception, and she shapeshifted into a reptilian right in front of my face. The most horrifying, demonic reptilian presence. And I was like, wow. All of a sudden, I turn around. My entire home turns dark green, and the sky outside is blood red. And I had this knowing that I'm stuck in a mind prison right now, that I'm stuck in a time loop with this reptilian, that it has me here. And I'm going everywhere I go in my house. It's all just a different dimension. Like it's my house, but it's dark. It's green. I can tell that there's like moss growing on the walls. It's like a dungeon. It's like a reptilian dungeon. And this reptilian's following me around, trying to talk to me. I'm trying to block it out so I don't listen to it. Doesn't deceive me anymore or anything. All I can hear is it's trying to tell me something. I'm just like, no. Running around, whatever reason, I run to the shower and close the door, lock it. And I'm like, all right, so if I'm in a mental prison, I got to get out somehow. I don't know what's going on. This is insane. For some reason, something told me to get in the shower.
Yeah.
put on hot water.
Yeah.
So I did. I get in the shower, put on hot water, and I'm just like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I'm trapped in this prison. And all of a sudden, I hear this just overpowering, loud, commanding voice say, no, this is a lie. It is deceiving you. And at the same time I hear this voice commanding, I puke up this black, like, I've never seen anything like it. And it went down the drain, this black goo, horrible.
Remind me to tell you about Dell, because we have been through this personally ourselves. Go ahead, so I will tell you about that.
Horrible stuff. And at the same time I puked this up, the lights in the bathroom actually turn into bright, beautiful white. Like even October sees it from outside the bathroom. Like, and I'm puking up this black stuff, and I feel them. I feel my guides. I feel something even more powerful. They're just beautiful love, and the room is glowing and pulsing. And it's so beautiful. And I'm looking out the shot like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I feel like 3 million pounds has been lifted off of me. And I'm still kind of spitting out black stuff here and there. And it's like, October, get in here. And she's like, I know. While all that was happening, she knew she saw the attachment. She knew what I was going through. And she said in her mind, she grabbed it and threw it through a portal and got rid of it. Wow. And she said right when she did that in her mind, that's when I started, wow. And I heard the commanding voice. I mean, I don't know. That was the most profound experience of my life. I went on to, I feel today, like at the day after, I felt like a completely different person. I feel like, I don't have any worries about anything. I feel like just, I can go on and not have any worries about anything in my past. I feel light as a feather. And that was the most profound experience of my life. And I no longer need psychedelics. I no longer need the vision quest. I no longer need the mushrooms. I'm done with them. I got what I needed from them.
I keep hearing rebirth. As you're telling this story, it was like a rebirth. Like,
yes, yeah,
the past is gone.
For sure,
that
definitely.
is incredible. I've been on the edge of my seat, you telling me this. And anybody listening to this, they're gonna, that has never experienced something like this, or seen anything like this, they're gonna say, oh, it was just the mushrooms. I have taken mushrooms once when I was I think I was in my 20s. One of my friends decided we were having these on a girls' night out. I had the best time of my life. We were at a bar. I could not stop laughing because people's noses were growing.
Well, let me say something really quick about that. Yeah, there's profound hallucinations I've had on mushrooms. Yes, it's true that, the mushrooms cause you to see things and hear things that aren't there. But I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of experience.
Never like this.
I had a knowing that I was no longer in the
I believe
dimension,
you. That's
that I was in a different dimension, Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this, because I knew that I was hallucinating. Like, I felt like I was floating, and like, I had a sense of reality and whatever. This was different. Now, when you said about this black stuff, that's where you got me, because part of our story, and it's featured actually on TV, that part, they kind of ran things together and spliced bits and pieces of a 6-hour interview together. So I'm not being ungrateful. I'm very grateful that our story was shared on Paranormal Survivor. But the last part, and people find this terrifying, this did happen in my old home. And one of us stayed awake all night long to watch the other 3 sleep because of this. But Dell, very quickly, I'll tell you this. And the reason why, because it's very interesting, is black. Because I hadn't slept in about 6 days. And Dell had put a camera in our laundry room because that was the most active part of the house. And apparently I was sitting in there. I don't remember. And that's the only time this happened. And I was sitting there, and he said he was watching me from the camera, and my arms were moving up and down like a marionette. And I was standing up, and I was talking to something in the corner, and I was laughing. And I wasn't on mushrooms. I wasn't on anything. I just hadn't slept, right? And then he came in the room, and he was really firm with me. Laura, get the F out of here right now. And I don't get angry. Like, very rarely do I get angry. I had this rage come over me. Like, don't you dare talk to me like that. He's going, come on, Laura, you just need to leave here. You need to leave. As I stepped out of the room, he said to me, I said, don't talk to me like that. He goes, Laura, that was the 3rd time I tried to get you out of there. And so I was like, oh my God, what the heck was going on here? So I'm laying in the bed beside him. All of a sudden, and being a nurse, I recognize what a seizure is. He starts like he's having a seizure. And I'm shaking him, going, Dell, wake up. And he's going, I'm okay. I'm all right, in his voice, but it wasn't him. And I have a bad back. I don't know how I leaped over the bed, and I sat him up, and I'm shaking the heck out of him. He starts puking up black stuff. I'm getting goosebumps telling you. And all of a sudden, he knew what was going on. He describes it now. It felt like his ribs were breaking. He was choking. And I swear to God, too, the nurse and me, because I took pictures of everything. I was going to take a picture of this stuff, and then I thought, no, that'll be a little too personal. So I never did. But it's very interesting that you mentioned black. It's kind of like ectoplasm.
I
like
wish I would have spit it somewhere on the ground because it went right down the drain.
No, but it's weird. Like I've never really seen, as nurses, you see a lot
like
of
I used to smoke cigarettes and I would cough up some nasty stuff. I've never seen anything like this. This was jet black.
So I believe you. That's my whole point of sharing this whole story is if you
incredible.
haven't been, because you'll hear people maybe hear this story and say, oh, it was the mushrooms. No, like, the difference. You've
For
been
sure.
there before. So isn't that interesting now that you say you don't have a worry in the world now? You feel a lot lighter. What do you think that all was? Like, what do you think?
I think that attachment has been with me for as long as I can remember, for whatever reason. It makes me think that if that family friend was involved in some type of dark ritualism and I was involved with it, that it could be an answer to that. But I am going to start doing more research into those people that I grew up around, because I had no idea what they were involved in. And I just do a little bit of tad research the next day, and I find out that he's a Grandmaster Mason, and he's involved with a lot of other dark things, and a very powerful man in my hometown.
What degree? Do you know what degree he was?
33 or beyond.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then
you
know what he was involved in. Because you hear so many people say, right, well, so-and-so I know is a Mason. They don't get... No, you have to be 33 and a third. And
he's
higher.
a very powerful man. Yeah, I do know that.
Wow, that is an incredible story, Chris. Incredible. Like you had me on the edge of my seat. Like I was just like, oh my God, oh my God. And when you said water, because I kept thinking water. Now you didn't actually get in the shower though, right? You just turned on the water.
I was in the shower. I was letting it flow over me.
Yeah, because the water would cleanse it, right? Like it would just cleanse it.
I was letting it flow over me. Yeah.
Interesting, because you guys, okay, so now I got another question for you, because I know you in October. So you had some activity in your home. Have you found the activity's been a little quieter since that happened too?
Yeah, it's been very peaceful. Although neither one of us think that there was anything malevolent in this home. In fact, October has a new understanding that this home is a doorway of some sorts. And it's like a transient kind of, we have a transient addict. She believes that spirits kind of just passing in and out. And nobody sticks around. They just kind of go through. And that's why we hear the footsteps at night. So it's very interesting.
My old home, I believe there was a portal there, at least one, and we did have people come and try and clear it. But the interesting thing is, right, even though you shut the door and you locked it, it almost seemed like this was something you had to do. You had to clear the final piece of the puzzle to sever that tie, right? Even though you said October was outside the door and she was able to assist you. But that was something you had to go through. Does that sound kind of like?
Of course, I knew that was it, but I also felt I had divine intervention because that thing had a powerful hold over me. And whenever that voice said, "No, you are being deceived," it was, that had to have been, either one of my guardian angels or something of a higher realm. I couldn't tell you for sure.
No, but the interesting thing is, and I love with you being a man, because as men, right, most men have been raised that you don't share emotion, and I'm not painting you with a brush. I'm just saying, I love that it's coming from you and you're sharing the depth of what was involved with this, because I think it'll probably give other people, I would hope, that push to come forward, because many of us have had these kind of connections and these kind of things happen, because and especially when you talked about the meditation that you went back to it, because when I teach people and I mentor them, there is no limit. Like when I've taught people I have this video I share quite a bit called the Love Shield. And I hate rules. I hate sitting there and telling people there's 12 steps to something. So the video takes longer to explain than it does to do. But I would like to get people to craft what works for them, if you will, create what works for them, so they don't turn off the video and go, what was step 7 again? What was I supposed to do? They know already, right?
Yeah.
So like I say, all of this that you've shared, though, I think I'm hoping it will give others, to realize that, yes, some strange stuff happens, but there is no limit with spirit either. Because that's where I was going with this, with the energy. When I teach people to create this love shield coming from a love perspective, not from a place of fear. But sometimes, especially when we're sensitive to energy, we need that shield around us, right? Because not everybody's on the same vibration, if you will. But you'll have people saying, well, can I do this or can I do that? There is no limit. You do what you feel you're drawn to, what feels right. Try it out, see what happens, right?
Right. Exactly.
Mhm. So, wow, I'm mind blown. You're gonna write a book, Chris, if you've got more
Oh man.
stories like this. My God.
I'm still unpacking everything. I mean, even since the event, I know that I had a lot of downloads that night after, just since the walking out of the shower and just feeling the immense energy and connection. I also started getting way like downloads of information I couldn't understand at the time. Very powerful, very profound, and then we go right into the conference this weekend, and I didn't have any time to unpack it. But today I was driving all day, and some of the stuff started just unfolding in my brain, and it's going to take a while for everything that just from that one evening that came through to unpack. But I just feel a lot more connected. I feel a lot more confident, and I feel that there's a sense of just I guess kind of like divine protection for those that are in the space of looking for this type of connection.
I just had a thought. Do you wonder, maybe with October being as intuitive as she is, that it was almost like she knew intuitively that you were going to need her that night, so
Could
that
have
she
been.
couldn't have gone to that same space as you, because she wouldn't have been able to assist you with the way that you, because you really needed
Right,
her,
right.
right?
Yes, for
Hmm.
sure. Didn't think about it that way, but that's a great possibility.
Well, I know October too. She's
Yeah.
been on this show and I know how intuitive she is. And I'm just wondering, because you're right. I don't think I've met too many people. Like, don't get me wrong, because I think it's a good point to point out with anything with anybody, that just because it works on one individual one way, and that's, I'm not, no, not pointing a finger at you, but what I'm saying is you were very careful, right? Because like you said, she doesn't take drugs or anything, but we all
Sure.
have different bodies and different
You know,
makeups and everything. So what affects somebody one way may not affect them the other. But I almost feel like this was intuitive on her part, like
I
she
forgot
knew.
to mention something that that's a big part of this. Whenever I was perplexed over why she wasn't feeling the effects,
Hmm.
and I was for a huge, dose, and still nothing. So I'm just like, what's going on? And I start to notice things about me. I'm paying close attention to see if there's anything different.
Hmm.
I noticed she has the music on. She's playing some classical music, and she noticed this too. But she was just like, meh. She heard the music would change according to her emotions. Now there was this one point where, for whatever
Wow.
reason, pop music came on, and she
Right.
said, "Why is this pop music on? Put it back on classical." And boom, it listened. It just went straight back to classical music, and the music would go along with her emotion all night. It would change. It would get louder. It would get softer, as well as the lights. I don't know what this is. The lights would dim and go brighter and go softer according to our conversations during the night. It was pretty crazy, some of the things that were
Well,
happening.
when you think about it, though, right? And I was talking about Michelle DeRoche, who was on last week with some of this. We are very telekinetic as human beings. We're capable of so much more than we've been told that it isn't possible, but it is possible. And I believe it all starts with the mind and the mindset. And then when you bring in, even if people want to break it down to science, right? Everything's energy. The energy can't be created nor destroyed, but it may transfer from one place to another. And once I think human beings learn about energy, connection with spirit, with our spirit guides, I always say, whether people believe in them or not, and angels, guess what? They believe in you, and they've been with you since before you incarnated into this lifetime. They'll be there to help assist you back home, as I call it. And when people want to get to know them better, it's interesting. You don't have to, but most people, I suggest, if they want to know, to have that conversation by saying, I want to know you better. I give you permission, because I've always been taught, and I believe with my connection with spirit, that they respect that we have free will. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
No, I think that you're absolutely right.
Hmm.
I think that they are a part of us. They're a part of our development on this in this realm. Part of us to realize who and what we are. And you said, I think you said it perfectly. Going home. This is
Hmm.
part of what I was unpacking in the car today, and it just
Interesting.
yes, and something just came to me about source that
Hmm.
in a way, it seems that it may have just fractured itself into infinite pieces at one point during our history, and now it wants to get back home, and those pieces are us. And the ones that are realizing and maybe waking up and coming online are trying to get back to home. It's
Hmm.
just a thought I had in the car earlier. So I think it's very fascinating that you brought that up as well. But yeah, I think that this is, it's all about self-realization, and these angels, the beings of light, your spirit guides, their purpose is to help us get back home, to help us get that spark going. For whatever reason, I wanted to have a spiritual experience. I wanted to know, and I went chasing that experience. And thank God they were the ones that showed up and steered me in the right direction, and not anything else. But I definitely agree that if if your intention's right and you're looking in the right direction, you can get in touch with them, and they'll guide you. You take that first step, they'll take it the second step for you, and apply that net like you were saying earlier.
Well, I almost, from what Spirit's shown me, is that, we set up this plan to incarnate into this lifetime, whatever that may be, but we'll use now, right now, for say you and I. And we have things that we want to learn or experience when we come here. So we've made these connections, these agreements, if you will, with our guides, with angels, with various people that we run into in our lives. And it's crazy when you start thinking about all the concentric circles that need to meet to make it all happen. But we also have the choice to screw it all up. But the way I've looked at it is, and we've all met people like this where their life never goes right. Everything they touch, everything they do, everything goes to shit. It just does. But it's the way Spirit shown it to me. And again, this is just my experience, is life is kind of like going paddling, in a canoe. And when we're fighting where we're supposed to go, or what we're meant to do in life, it's like paddling up current, if you will. But even if we stop and we breathe, right, eventually the canoe is going to turn, if you will. But the more that we kind of navigate towards, I believe, what we've set out, whatever our goal may be here, even if it's meant to experience what fun in lifetime is. I've met somebody that I believe that is their goal, to experience what life is all about: joy, fun, happiness, parties, whatever it may be, right?
I completely agree. This is an experience, of a personal experience for you, or
Hmm.
whatever we are as spirits, to learn and grow as those spiritual beings, and it's infinite. And I think that maybe if we don't want to come back here to this realm and do something here, maybe there's even other realms that we could
I believe
choose
there
to
is. The one
to
thing that
incarnate.
was a big question for me, and I still have a hard time wrapping my mind around it, but I'm assured that this can happen. Okay, so we're in the year 2022 right now. Okay, so we go on forever. This lifetime, what, 80, 100 years, if we're lucky living here that long, right? It's like a blip in eternity. So the next lifetime we decide to come back, who knows where it could be? But I always thought, do we go forward in time or could we go back in time? Now that's a little scary. Can you imagine if you decide to come back well before the dinosaurs or before there was anything? But it goes either way, right? There's no time or space on the other side.
I wouldn't think so.
Mhm.
And I think that it is very interesting what you said about maybe incarnating on different planets.
I believe that.
Um, but I was thinking earlier, with a lot of the what's happening right now on our planet, a lot of the the turmoil, and I think that people are incarnating during this period, maybe to help out and
Mhm.
steer a certain direction. And I think a big part of that is the collective that is waking up and realizing everything that's been wrong with the world and everything that we've done wrong as humans and everything that we've been lied to, that part of the collective that is waking up and coming online is all part of that. And we're kind of being steered to the direction of going back to source and realize that what's happening now with this, it's sad to say that the priest class of our modern society is keeping us from being who we are. That religion and all the organized and Abrahamic religion, all these things were constructed to keep us in this kind of this realm, this matrix that we're in, and not realize who we are and what we have the capability to do. And it's just sad to me that our own priest class, the ones that we rely on for spirituality, that we believe we have to go through them to get to God, are the ones keeping us here, you know. And once you realize that, you gotta, that's another hard one for people to see.
Well, I always say to people that, you know, some people do need religion, and I always say, not my job to judge, not that we're judging anybody, but I've studied near-death experiences personally and professionally for about 40 years. I believe I had one as a toddler. And, you know, that's kind of where I was going a little bit earlier with spirit with no limitations. We almost have to look at everything like there is no box, not even thinking outside the box. There are no limits. So I've had classes with spirit. You can have classes with them if you want to know about stuff and you get into that meditative state, because people say, well, can you?
Yeah.
There is no limit. And I always say too, and I really believe this, our guides and our angels, and we have much more. We have ascended masters. Look at the little guides that you have that are so incredible. I almost could see them when you were explaining them. But the point is, they're here to help us succeed. So when people feel very alone, and again, right, this is all a human construct. We're never alone, ever, ever, ever. And I never realized how much I needed to connect with spirit. And I'm very, you know, I love people being around them, but I never realized I spend a lot of time by myself. I need to, being an empath myself. I believe most people that connect with spirit are empaths, just my thoughts. But we need that quiet. And when I'm around people for too long or too many people, I crave that stillness to be able to go in there and have the conversation with spirit, or hear what I need to hear, or ask the questions I need to ask. What's your thoughts on that?
For me, I used to have a hard time being able to, like I said, meditate at all. But once I gained that connection, it was like after a while, I would just have this knowing that they were there, and it wasn't necessarily a conversation. It would just come in as a knowing or a thought form.
That's what I'm calling it, a conversation, but it's not.
Yeah.
You're right. It happens so much more quickly. Same as the feeling of love. There is no word in the English language to even remotely explain that, the feelings, the colors, the sounds. Like
it's weird. It used to be a separate kind of almost separate experience for me, where I would realize I'm talking to spirit right now. I can feel it. Now it's just like part of my everyday existence. There, it's just there. It's a connection all the time, and it's hard to differentiate, you know, when my conversation with them is going and when it's stopping, because I think it's always there in a sense.
Always.
Yeah, and it's profound the way that the kind of connection that I've gained to that in the past few months. But this is such a, like you said, such a personal thing. It's such a personal experience. Any form of contact, and most paranormal experiences are just so personal. You're not going to have many mass or group type of experiences like that. And I think that's for a reason, because this whole existence is your experience. It's about you. It's about your life and your learning and your knowing. And it's not about anyone else's. And with the second you try to include someone else's journey and mesh it into yours, it doesn't work. And that's when things kind of get screwed up. So even, you know, looking at other paranormal experiences, I love comparing other people's experiences and taking notes, getting everything together. But it's made me realize that it's not going to help me understand the phenomenon at all, because it's just about their personal connection to whatever this is that they're connecting with at the time. So it's impossible, I think, for someone else to understand another person's experience totally. I mean, we can get a basic understanding, but this paranormal ufology, all this stuff
Mhm.
is, I think, just about learning about who you are,
I
you
have
know?
I have to agree, and, the other thing that spirit, obviously, there's many things they show you, and you're right about learning about who you are, but then realizing that, like, what spirit shown me is there are so many entities, beings, if you will, that are dying, if you will. That's not the right word, but come here to have an experience on Earth in this 3D existence. And I could be wrong. This is just what I've been picking up. And the reason why is we come in with spiritual amnesia. We come into these heavy, dense, clumsy bodies that are so fragile, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to do the most learning that you're going to do is on this existence, because most of us don't remember all the lifetimes we've had before, all of the lessons we've learned, what we have. And there's just such a potential for people to grow in this existence here. So that's why I say to a lot of people, because most people say, well, why am I here? What's my reason for this? And then I always joke saying, well, if I signed up for this, I wish I would have read the small print a little better with what we're going through.
Right. Well, I think that we're on this planet, we are provided with spiritual tools that we can choose to use and choose to find, or we just can leave them there and enjoy our physical, material existence. For me, these tools were plant medicines,
Yes,
and things of like that nature.
everything we need.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
for marijuana,
Hmm.
psilocybin, these opened a door to the spirit world for me,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of these things that such as those substances are placed here for that very purpose and no
Hmm.
other, to get our connection going. And not just, it's something different for everybody. It could be a spark here, something, something you think of. It could be meditation. It could be exercise. It could be any number of things. It could be your
Hmm.
child being born. It could be a near death experience. For
Hmm.
me, it was plant medicines that got
Hmm.
me to where I needed to be. But they're tools. I mean, there are things here for people to grasp onto, to get that understanding of what the nature of reality really is. And I think that those tools have been demonized. Of course, drugs are bad. The
Hmm.
war on drugs and things of that nature. Yes. Pharmaceuticals are fucking bad. They're awful. These chemical drugs are bad. Don't take them. But plant medicines are something different. I don't think they're meant to be used to party on, or to do it, have the good time. They're meant as experiential spiritual tools to strengthen your connection to source and who you really are, and navigate through this kind of game of life that we're in, you know.
Well, I was just having this conversation recently. Excuse me. And I always say I come from a big pharma background, but if I can find anything natural, do a lot of research into homeopathy, naturopathy, plant medicine. And when you start to think about it, you start to look at it, we've been provided with everything that we need right in nature from around the world. And we really have, like, that's just some of the tools you're talking about, even some of the medications that we use, that when you look back, like, they had versions of it hundreds of years ago, but they went to the actual source of it. It was the real thing. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting existence. And then when you really think about it, we live in this dual reality here, right? Night and day, hot and cold, light and dark. So let's investigate this a little bit. What do you think about the people that have a bad trip, if you will? Because there are people that do. So what's your thoughts? Or say ayahuasca.
Well,
I've heard some interesting stories that were very dangerous, actually, for some people.
course, yeah. I've had bad trips.
Hmm.
Although majority of them have been not bad. But what for me, my understanding of that is these plant medicines, they reach the deepest, darkest area of your psyche and your subconscious, that you don't want to look at, and it pulls it and shows it to you in whatever
Oh,
way it can.
interesting. Hmm.
And that's the way it worked for me. Anything that I have deep down inside hiding, whether it's something I'm scared of, whether it's something I'm ashamed of, past trauma, anything you don't want to look at and face, for me, the mushrooms, the psilocybin, any kind of psychedelics I would use would pull it up and show it to me, and it makes you face it, because you're not going to leave that trip until you face this problem. For me, that's
Okay.
the way it always went. And each experience was something different. Each experience would pull up a different either issue I had to work on, something that I was worried about, something past trauma, and it would pull it up. I didn't want to look at it. Oh, okay. I'll bring it up for you. And it shows it to me, puts it in my face. And it's like a hero's journey. Every time you have an experience, you have to fight through it, realize what's going on, realize why, and accept it. And then your journey's over. And that's every time. But it was profound that the past few journeys I've had, how it was all building up to this one final experience. And the previous ones were like preparing me, and I'd be getting messages about things that were going to happen and how I needed to do this experience with October. And it's just,
now you know why.
Yeah. Very profound.
No, you're the umpteenth person, and I don't say this lightly, that has said to me that when we listen to spirit, what happens, right? Like, going from a corporate job that you were depressed to go to every day, to doing what you're doing. And let's get into that a little bit. So you've got this network. You want to talk a little bit, because you got this conference you just did and stuff. I'd love to talk about your network and what's on there and the whole bit.
Sure. Well, it started as a Facebook page back in 2017. People thought it was interesting, and I'm like, man, people think this interesting. I'm not this smart. I need to start, interviewing people, talking to people smarter than myself. So I start that, and that started as a YouTube channel. I had no idea about podcasting. I really didn't know what the hell podcasting was.
I hear you.
And my friend Charlie Robinson, who I've had on the show, he's like, you need to turn this into a podcast. That's where the money's going. And at the same time, censorship, it started ramping up on YouTube, and they demonetized me. So I'm like, well, I got to do something if I want to make any money off of this stuff. So he gets me in touch with Corey, who does podcasting. We form our business partnership, start the podcast, and it starts doing well. It starts taking off, and it just started off as the podcast, the YouTube channel. And then we decide, after I cover my first UFO conference, I get a little spark in me. I'm like, let's do our own conference. This was fun. This was great, but something different. It was the era that COVID just started. Everybody's starting to move stuff online. Let's do an online conference. So we did our first annual Forbidden Knowledge News Con. It was very successful. I mean, I was surprised how successful it was. People enjoyed it. And that's when we just decided to start kind of branching out and doing more shows. Corey starts doing his own shows, and it was just so much. Not only that was it fun, and it was a passion of mine and his, but it was amazing meeting the people that we're meeting, and the connections, and bringing the information together. And I meet my good friend Ryder Lee, who starts doing his own show, and just the most amazing podcasters and talk show hosts out there. And we just have the idea, let's do a website to bring all these podcasts together that are in our community, and feature them, and, bring them up, we'll come up all together. So we start the Forbidden Knowledge Network, and there's a couple of shows that we, formed from our own, that we formed by ourselves. And there's a few shows that other people had before that they wanted to join onto the network. And, we feature them, and we put them on our website, and I do all the promotion on social media for them, and try to get their shows out there for everybody, because it's a great community. And I think that everybody that's trying to do something right now to bring this information and bring their passion out, I want to help them do that, because I know where I was, and a lot of people helped me, and I appreciated it so much, and I want to kind of pay it forward for other people. So that's where the network started, and now we're doing conferences annually. We just finished our third annual Forbidden Knowledge News Con. Those are online. If you go to our Rockfin membership, that's rokfin.com. That's where we do our premium membership only stuff, and it's great. Rockfin is amazing. it's a network. It's like YouTube, but it features all kinds of amazing creators on there, and you get all their premium content and all their free content and all mine, and it's all $10. So you can't beat that. You get a whole bunch of subscription stuff for free. Rockfin's wonderful, and the guys on there are decentralized and censorship free, so they're fighting against the machine, and it's a great way to kind of get your information and not have to worry about being pulled off of there. So we got on Rockfin. Thank you to Charlie and Sam Tripoli for that.
Oh, Sam.
And
Yeah.
yeah, Sam. And that's basically where we are now. We're, I do my shows. I do about 5 or 6 shows a week, and Corey has his shows, and we'll hopefully be doing another conference upcoming next year.
I love it, because I forgot to mention, I'm glad you reminded me, we have a membership with this channel, UFO Paranormal Radio, on YouTube. And for a very nominal fee, I need to throw that in there. If there's extra content, there's shows that would be censored otherwise. I know I think I put 3 behind the membership wall, because otherwise you guys can't find them unless you're talking to me and I've sent you the link or whatever. But there's all kinds of stuff we have, I believe, between syndicated hosts and live regular hosts. I think we have between 40 and 50 hosts. So there's something for everybody. There's lots for free too, but make sure to check it out. The membership numbers will be under the YouTube channel, or not numbers, how to connect with the membership under there. I forgot to add, I usually mention that at the beginning of the show. I was a little discombobulated at the beginning there. So, well, that is amazing that, what you've built up. And again, Spirit told you. But that, let's go there a little bit with this, because how many people out there wake up exactly how you felt? Like, oh my God, I gotta go to work. Oh, I hate this job. I don't want to do it, but I got bills to pay. It pays, pays well enough. I'm just going to keep doing it. Because with working in palliative care, and I've said this so many times over the years, being on air and off air, every single person that I had, from the poorest of the poor to very, very wealthy people that were terminally ill, not one person said, geez, I wish I had made more money. Geez, I wish I had kept at that job that I really hated because it padded my wallet or whatever it was. It was always things like, I wish I told the people around me how much I love them every single day, how much they mean to me, how amazing they are. That I hadn't put my dreams on the back burner, that when I retire, we're going to take this dream vacation, or once I lose this 30 pounds and I'll be happy, whatever it was really understanding the deeper meanings of life. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that. Like,
oh man, whenever I first quit my job and started doing this and was, just making enough to get by, I actually went through a period of feeling bad for not being a normal working schlo anymore. I was the programming goes deep, you're programmed to be taught that you're nothing. You're part of the machine. That's all you're here for. Feed the machine, and maybe we'll throw you some scraps at the end of the day, and you can go look at Kim Kardashian's ass at night.
Yeah.
So that's it. They want us to think that that's the culmination of our reality. And I was kind of sunk in that for a long time. And not only was I depressed about going to a corporate job, but I was deceitful. I was manipulative. I was in sales. I was selling stuff to people that I know couldn't afford it. And that was weighing on me, knowing that I had to go, just be an ass all day to people. And it was cell phone sales. So I'm surrounded by electromagnetic frequencies on top of that, and Wi-Fi, and we're selling televisions, all kinds of just electronics, and we're selling cable service. So I'm not only bombarded with my own disgusting behavior as a salesman, but the frequencies that are surrounding me every day, and everybody's nasty attitude about, life in general when they go into a cell phone store.
Well, plus it's kind of survival skills, really.
Yeah.
The survival skills, rather than, I would never look on you or anybody else with the job that they did and say you were a horrible person. I mean, you had to do what you had to do to survive.
Like, that was just draining,
Because you knew deep down that there had to be something else, just like I think most people do. Like, I know when the movie The Matrix came out, I didn't get it. Like, how many years ago, I was like, this is kind of an odd, weird movie. I love Keanu Reeves, so I'd watch it. And I was really, special effects and stuff. But now, holy cow, like what they were trying to tell us. They were trying to tell us. Like, I still haven't quite figured out all that's with the fourth one yet, but I think they were trying to tell us. And I, I don't know if all humanity is ever going to wake up. Like I was just, again, Dell and I have these deep conversations, as I'm sure you and October do too, as well, knowing what you do. Because I've been saying that I will be careful navigating, because we're on YouTube here, but I know you'll be able to navigate it with me with this conversation. But I think that everybody's going to get red pilled, whether they want to be or not. That is coming, and very soon. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think about this all the time.
Mhm,
I think a good portion of us already are, and they're just not saying anything. They're mulling it over. I think a lot of people are quiet right now because they realize they've been duped.
excuse
They
me.
realize they've been lied to. Just with all the oogada boogada that just happened, and you know what I'm talking about with the
Mhm,
experimental stuff. People have been deceived, and they are realizing it. And I think we're in a period right now of just quiet silence where people are kind of thinking it over. And I think more people are already awake than we even realize. There's still a lot of sleepers. There's still a lot of
oh,
people part of the system that are like I call them NPCs. Just they haven't come online yet, or they may not ever come online. They're just
mhm,
going along with this material existence because they're doing what they're told. It's like that new meme. I support this thing or whatever it is, the current thing.
yeah,
Yeah, they just go along with the flow, and the wrong kind of flow.
mhm.
But I think a lot of people are at that point, if not already, where they would be on the right side of history. Because man, you don't want to be on the wrong side of history on this one.
See, we're in
Uh,
a different place than you are, though,
yeah.
because, for example, where I live in Ontario, they are finally getting rid of the face diapers next Monday. Finally,
Wow.
we've never been able to stop wearing them. I've been finding a lot of my friends in the southern US, especially,
Mm,
life has been back to pretty well normal for quite some time. And where I am living, it is a scary place to be
That's
because
we talked about this. You came on my show, and it is
mhm,
so insane how
mhm,
different it
yeah.
is in Canada right now, and it's like you guys are trapped, and it makes me
Mhm,
feel so bad that they have you in this kind of prison over there, and I can't
mhm.
imagine because, most of the guys you guys have gotten vax, not you personally, but the
You
people in
gotta be
Canada.
careful with that word. We'll say jabbed.
Yeah,
Jab,
yeah,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, most of you people have been, the Canadians, have been in that,
Jabbed?
and so it's very interesting to see the difference in, the
I don't
thought
think
process.
quite as many as the numbers that they're putting out there. Now, this is something I feel comfortable saying this as a woman, is I am seeing that the majority of those that have not only bought the Kool-Aid, drank it, but are completely immersed in it and have become the Kool-Aid are women. Women, late 20s to around my age. Well, I'll be 57 in August, but especially 40 plus, like it's women. You see the comments, and they will be the people that will be buying this hook, line, and sinker, thinking that the government is your friend, the government is here to look after you, and I can see what's going to happen because my city, I live right smack dab in the middle of Canada. So I don't live way up north, but I live in a city called Thunder Bay, and it's about 6 hours north of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm about 35 minutes away from the US border. So you have to come through my city. I know I said this on your show, but for our listeners, if you're coming from Western Canada to the east or vice versa, or you want to go down to Southern Ontario, but you're not going to go through the state, you have to go around. So you come through my city. My city is not a word of a lie. I would say probably a good 70% are still asleep. Still asleep. It is crazy, the stuff we are seeing. So that's my whole point. Like, what do you do? Do you pick up and run? Like, what do you do?
Well, I think that I think that those of us that not only are in the know, but like we talked about, there's a sense of spiritual armor that people have to have right now.
Yes.
Uh, and I think that those people in a way are, I don't want to say protected, but they have they can be, they have a sense of knowing, and they have the knowledge of things that other people don't, and this knowledge is more powerful than anything. But what I'm saying with the spiritual armor thing is, the elites, the scumbags, the globalists in control, they have their belief system, and whatever it's the devil or Baal or whatever ancient deity they go to Bohemian Grove and dance for, they have that, and they believe that that's fully got their back, and that's guiding their divinity and their new world order and their new whatever they want ideal for humanity, and they've got those deities. Well, if we're on the other side and there's no spirituality, we don't have any big woo woo gods or deities are on our side, it's just us little humans. I think that puts us at a somewhat of a disadvantage. And that's where the higher power or spirituality are knowing that there's just, there's not only more than us, that we are more than them. And that's all part of the collective. If you don't have that, I think you're at a disadvantage. And I think that's where the fear comes in. And that's where I don't think people have to worry either way, but that's where people are worrying. And that's where people are missing something.
I have to agree with you, because like I said, I shared earlier in the show, the first place you go to is a place of fear. And then I always say too that knowledge is empowering. It is so empowering. Some people, I guess it depends how you look at it though, but to me, and I think most rational human beings feel this way, wouldn't you rather know and have the time to break it apart, take a look at it, like you said, connect with spirit, if you will, or whomever your higher power is. And not that spirit is just, we're talking collectively, source, the whole bit here, because I'll get people saying, well, you don't believe in God because of what you do. Again, programming, religious programming, dogma, what have you. And then they'll believe that you don't, for me, it's God. When I do readings though with people, I always say, whatever your belief system is, it doesn't matter to me. But my whole point is, with all this programming, like, I think the most powerful thing we can do is turn off the TV and turn off the radio. But with that being said too, with podcasting, you find a lot of people that get very envious. I know Dell went through this the other night talking to somebody, again, somebody from high school, believe it or not, hadn't talked to them in years. And it was really about, well, I wish I could do what you're doing. But the beautiful thing is, and I always encourage people, now is the time. Step up. What have you got to say? Share it, because people are looking for alternative media. What's your thoughts about that too? Do you believe that? Or
for sure. I think this is the time. I think where there's a new revolution going on. I think that podcasting is a new form of entertainment. I think Hollywood's crumbling. I think the traditional entertainment that people used to look for is going bye-bye, and people are listening. People are turning into to real information, to real people, not just fake stuff, to people's real thoughts, to genuine stuff, to things that's been missing. And that's what podcasters are doing. They're taking it back. They're making it real. They're bringing real information to the table, and they're broadcasting it to everybody. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a new type of revolution that I think is happening right now, that it's a great thing that we're a part of. So I think podcasting is the future for all of us. That, I get into it. It's great. It's, if you want, even if you want to get on there for 2 minutes and just, tell about how you feel today, it's still adding information to the pool of stuff. And I think it's a great thing. And I want to address something you were saying about fear and what's keeping people back, holding people back right now. You get rid of all the stuff that they're trying to push with us for fear, and they have no more power.
exactly.
So, so what? They're gonna give you something you might die from. Okay. Well, so what? You're gonna die. You'll be back. The death is just the beginning of something else. You shouldn't be afraid of death. So, something else, they're gonna keep you locked away forever, not feed you, torture you. Pain? Well, we all go through some pain. It sucks. It really, physical pain really does suck, but that's not something that's you can go through a little pain and still live. And then if you die, you die. So what? You're dead. You'll be back. And, all these other things that people are afraid of, disease, not being accepted, not being able to fly on a plane, not being able to go to my favorite club, all this stuff that people are afraid of right now. You take all that stuff away, there's no power. They don't hold any power, and we won. That's it.
That's my whole message has been that once they no longer oh, hang on, Dave asked a question, it's a good question. But, once they don't have fear anymore, it's the only weapon they have. Because Dave's been on the show before, Dave Petrella. He's just started his own new podcast. Feel free to put the name in there, Dave, because I forget what it is. He's an astrologer, a scientist. He's been involved with Oak Island, the TV show that was involved with that. He's a really cool guy, really nice guy. So he said the community is growing a lot every day. Join the team. Now, this could open up a whole can of worms here, Dave, but we're going to ask your question. What's going on with the gas prices, guys? Well, I think we know what's going on with the gas prices, but we could certainly talk about it. What's your take on it, Chris? With being careful what we're saying on this, because like I said, normally I put it just on my channel, but we're on the network channel tonight too. So.
Just like everything else, food shortage. It's just trying to drive up consumer fear. It's trying to keep us in this state that we have to worry about. When we got to worry about the gas, we got to worry about Ukraine, we got to worry about Russia, we got to worry about Putin, we got to worry about nuclear bombs. No, you don't. Look, I honestly, in my heart of hearts, I think that nuclear war is the last thing we ever have to worry about right now. They're not gonna destroy their resources, which is us. You know, they're not gonna destroy their batteries or the land. They want to control us. They want to have us here. They may try to depopulate a little bit, but they're not gonna destroy the whole planet for a nuclear war. And that's one of the biggest things they're keeping people in fear with this whole new agenda.
But what about ET? If we go down this strange road, okay, now people, you're going to think I'm nuts, but you can look this up. You can look up anything we've talked about tonight. I always tell people, take a look for yourself. You don't have to believe us. But there are instances around the world where there have been UFOs and things all around nuclear power plants, and the whole thing shuts down. You've heard about that, haven't you, Chris?
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. The whole UFO phenomenon it's something that got me into this. It's something that I'm fascinated with, and I think it's a huge part of everything that's happening. Although I have more of an understanding of it than I've ever had, I have zero understanding of it. It's something that is like the biggest onion that you could ever unpeel. And each layer, there's another layer behind it that you don't understand. And once you get an understanding of that, it's like, oh my gosh, there's something else. Whatever ET is to it, they have a very big interest in connection in humanity. In some aspects, I think maybe they are us, different versions of us in the future that are coming back. Maybe we evolve different ways. I don't know who or what they are. I know they exist. I know there's plenty of them. I've had enough experiences and seen enough things to know, and talked to enough people to know that, that ET is a thing. But ET is a big mystery, and I think it's wrapped in this whole spiritual mystery as well. I think some of them are messengers, some of them may be angelic, some of them are celestial beings, but some of them are also very physical. Some of them are very science-like and have no empathy or emotion and just want to tinker with us. And I think it's just a whole spectrum of entities. But for me, the new thing that I am, you have to be careful with this one because this topic divides people. I've come to the conclusion that the traditional model of space is a lie. I'm not saying we're on a flat Earth at all. I'm not. I don't think we're on a globe either. And I think it's more of a spiritual realm. I think it's more if it's, I am fascinated with the arguments that flat earthers have because it's very profound at times. But we in no way live on what the traditional model of space is that they're telling us. And I've come to the definitive knowing and understanding that the stars and the sun and the moon and the planets are a sky clock, and they are there for us to keep track of the seasons and everything happening around us. They're there as a giant sky clock. So I don't know what else beyond that. I'm sure that space exists. I'm sure that there are, beings coming from what we have been told space is. No, I honestly don't believe that's what it is. And I know we have not gone to the moon like they've told us.
Thank you.
No way. And, that brings up a whole new thing of like, okay, so if we're not on this traditional model of space, what is this thing? And that brings us to, for me, a spiritual learning ground. That's
Mhm.
something for us to be here for this time for a purpose.
Mhm. So Dave says, I don't think the ET will allow for another nuclear war. I agree. And yes, they can deactivate whatever the hell they want. Yes, they can. And
Yeah.
then Dave says, Chris, I'm doing a full presentation on flat earth the last Friday of this month.
Sweet.
And Zach Man says, either you are pressured to pay high gas prices or pay a ridiculous rate to pay on an electric car. There is no winning for the consumer. But with that being said, now I have been saying this, I'm going to repeat myself. I strongly encourage people to look up something, I'll spell it GRANDJURY. You can find it on Odyssey. It's long, people, very, very long. But I have been saying this over and over and over. I shared it with Karen and she brought it up, I think, on your show, Chris, when we did it with you, that every man, woman, and child needs to watch that. Now, they've been on a break. They're breaking it down into smaller chunks, but especially when you get into the presentation about economics, it breaks everything down. There are people from all over the world, experts who have, let's say, worked very high up for many of these organizations like WHO, the CDC, Pfizer, you name it, they have worked for them. And so, you get people trying to, the cancel culture, saying that such and such a doctor is a fringe doctor when we know they're not, and what have you. But when you start listening to this and you start listening to economics, and I never got into economics, I found it very boring, but you start looking at Edward, what's his last name? Dowd,
Mm.
really good guy to check out. There's a whole bunch of people to check out with this. When you start looking, you see exactly why the gas is going the price it is, the food the way it's going. With the fiat money system, whether we like it or not, it's on life support. So this is going to be part of whether they're going to, basically how somebody put it that I watched recently was that they have a choice. Either we can go through something like the Great Depression, kind of let the steam off, but as history has shown it, and this was another series I was watching, it was excellent right now, and it's talking about prepping and what's coming on. They also did another great series on what's been going on over the last 2 years. Anyways, this gentleman that was speaking from Australia, and I think he's right, is that history has shown over the hundreds of years that what they usually do is they run the dollar into the ground and or basically raise prices so high that
Mhm.
eventually people can't afford it and it has no value anymore. And then you have to go somewhere else with something, come up with another kind of currency, whatever. So I think that's where we're going with right now. And you're right about the electric cars, Zach. Unless you're a multimillionaire, and I say that facetiously, there are people that aren't multimillionaires that are lucky enough to afford an electric car, but not everybody's going to be able to afford that. So what comes next, right?
I think that the not only the economic and financial systems,
Mm-hmm.
everything is coming to a crash right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all going to come down in flames.
Mm-hmm.
The question is what's going to come up after. It's been obviously, their plan to destroy the old systems for a long time. I know
Mm-hmm.
that the people, Davos and the World Economic Forum and all these MFers want to erect this new global system so that they can control everything and
Yes.
then they can have this technocracy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's where this whole thing has been about. But I think that we have the opportunity here to kind of hijack this whole movement
Yes.
as it's crashing to the ground and then rebuild it in our own way and rebuild, our own systems, our own governments the right way, the way that should have been done before. But we have to stop them from putting up their systems first. And that's what this whole thing, it's like this major grand spiritual war over humanity.
Well, part of it is too, right? When you start looking at it, Rome never really fell. If you look at it, you go through history, right? It's just had a different name, a different base, a different what have you. Now, Dave, you're going to have to explain this a little bit, unless you understand this, Chris, because I'm not much into
I love
astrology.
astrology, but I'm not deep enough into knowing what
Yeah,
it.
so Dave, you'll have to explain to us. Pluto's coming back in July, then again in
I
December.
know
We're in.
Pluto signifies death and rebirth, so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, but even if you get the death card, say in tarot, people have a panic attack when they see that. That doesn't mean that people take it literally. It just means the ending of an old system
Right.
and the beginning of something new. But even you look at the word apocalypse, and I think we talked about this on your show, Karen and I, but you look at it, part of the word apocalypse means the death, the death obviously of something, but revealing what was once hidden.
Mhm.
And when you pull the cork out of the genie's bottle, I'll call it, when you start waking up, right? You can't stuff the genie back in. So you can't unsee it. So what happens is, right, it's the death of an old way of
Mhm.
thinking, whatever. And then we move forward, or just like what you had to say. Now, what's Dave saying here? He goes, Pluto, um, return for the USA. Yes, destruction and transformation. Now, even the interesting thing is too, when you look at this war, this isn't the first time stuff like this has happened, but somebody had sent me Putin's speech from Wednesday, and when I listened to a lot of that, and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, I couldn't disagree. I don't agree with what he's doing, but I'm saying a lot of things he's saying, when you start researching it, see,
Here's the
there's
thing.
some truth.
I could go a few different ways with Putin.
Hmm.
Well, many of my close friends, and
Hmm.
I consider it, believe that Putin is kind of fighting against the New World Order in a way.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
believe he's going in and taking out some of these bioweapons plants in Ukraine, and he just doesn't want that shit near him. And he doesn't
Hmm.
want, of course, who would want them to be part of NATO and these shady organizations. He doesn't
Hmm.
want them to be uh, coming in and trying to take over their systems. He kicked the Rothschilds out, for Christ's
Hmm.
sake. So that is, probably a likely scenario. And I'm not going to say it's definite, but there's the other aspect. He's probably one of the richest men in the world. He's got extreme power. What would make him, that extremely powerful man, different than any other extremely powerful man that's in control of a lot of military in a
Hmm.
country? Um, and he's former KGB. I'm sure this
Hmm.
this man has killed many people. I don't think he's a good person, but
Hmm.
I'm not going to claim to know what is exactly going on. I know it's nothing of what they're going to tell you in the news, and if they tell
Yeah.
you to support Ukraine, you don't support Ukraine.
Hmm.
So, that's the way it is. That's the way it's been traditionally in our
That's the
history.
sad part, though, right? With war, it's always the innocent people.
Yes.
It's never the people that decide to go to war that are actually in the war. It's innocent people. And if I had my way, there would be no war. But again, I think if we've seen, if anything, especially over the last 2 years, and I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're told to do something by the media, or told that it's being censored or hidden, you
Yeah.
might want to take a look,
Yeah,
because
for
there's a
sure.
reason why. Because this is what I'm finding with a lot of people that are having a hard time believing this, is they're saying, well, who would want to do that? Or why would they do that? And then when you try and explain, you can't even explain it to people, because it's like you got to discover it for yourself. Or like
Yes.
Del was saying tonight, it's got to happen in your own bubble,
Mhm.
unfortunately, before you get that kick to the butt, if you will, that was, holy cow, like what the heck is going on here? Would you agree, or what's your thoughts on
Yeah,
that,
you have to
Chris?
go through it yourself. You can't tell anybody what's going on and have
Mm-mm.
them understand it. They have to go through do their own research and do their own
Hmm.
understanding. I had to, and I'm sure it's the same way with everyone else. I still, there's many things that I have a zero understanding of what's going on, as far as, with the reset and all this
Hmm.
nonsense that's happening. But I think that if that we trusting of our gut feelings is very important with all of this stuff.
Hmm.
If you have something that you're told and some doesn't sit right with you, do that research. And that's the problem with 90% of the people right now, is they're not doing any research. It's just doing what people are telling them. They're doing what the media is telling them, doing what
Mm-hmm.
the telling them, like they've always done, and that there's no growth there and there's no truth or knowledge there, and they're going to be stuck. And unfortunately, that's what's happened with the sleepers.
You're right, because I said once everybody does get red pill, they're going to go, what? What? How did this happen? Why did I not know? But it's been going on for a long time. But I was just thinking about this. I lost my train of thought there for a sec about there was something you had said a few minutes ago. It'll come back to me as I'm talking. I know it will. Um, but I think it's important, like you said, you don't have to, you know what, do your own research and take a look. Like, it's interesting how you said with your awakening, I was expecting some big major thing that had happened, but I think maybe what part of it was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, is you were open-minded. Like you said, you were kind of in that space always. The dots aren't connecting, and for whatever reason, maybe energetically, because 2012 was pretty significant, you know?
I think, getting divorced from my first marriage and my high school sweetheart kind of
Mhm,
charged something emotionally in me that got me looking at things in a different way. And I was just in that space where I wanted more than just a
mhm.
material existence, and I needed to find out more. And since I was a kid, I've always loved aliens and paranormal and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I remember being a kid, very young, thinking this very thought, you know what? I think I'm going to be around whenever there's an apocalypse or some weird global
I gave
event.
a speech in 6th grade at a
uh,
Catholic school on, Revelations. I remember my dad helping me with this. I was when she was on here, and I was talking to her about this, and she found that so funny. Like, she goes, "You must have known, like, way back then." And I think about this, I everybody in my class was freaked out, my teacher was freaked out. Like, I must have been a pretty weird kid, I guess, to wanna
I was,
do,
yeah,
but still, like, and you said yourself, you knew yourself that this was happening, and every one of us is here for a reason. That's where I was going to go with this. Was I think part of this about putting, like you said, the armor of spirituality, or some people call it the armor of God, whatever it is. But I think that vibrationally, that what it's happening is we're meeting, if you will, our people that are on the same vibrational level. And
right.
again, having this conversation with Dell today, I said, I can't tell anybody. I told you so. And he goes, it's going to break my heart to tell people. I said, I can't tell them that. And I think, I don't know what your thoughts. You think maybe, like, some of the things you've talked about, you were prepared for before you had the actual event. I almost feel that way. Like, we've been prepared for this, that when people are going to need that support, or that beacon of light, if you will, the lighthouse, that they're gonna find the people that will be able to support them. I don't know, what's your
Yeah,
thoughts?
well, I found out very early on in my journey that you can't show this to people who aren't ready, and but I did.
Mhm.
Like, I learned quick because it felt like I was jumping on a horse and going right down the street saying, "Pedophiles, aliens, sir,"
Yeah,
just yelling
yeah,
everything at
yeah,
people, and they didn't want to hear it. They thought I was crazy. My
mhm,
family almost disowned me.
yeah,
So, I what the approach I took after that is fine. I'm going to do my show. I'm going to just speak it into my microphone, and
yeah,
whoever wants to listen, if they want to come and listen, they can listen. And
yeah,
that's the way it was. So that's, I think, the way you need to approach it. Just
mhm,
speak it out there to your own little personal
mhm.
microphone, and if people want to come to listen, they will come to it. And that's the way it is. It's happened with so many people in this right now, and it's, like I said, it's a revolution. It's a beautiful thing that's happening with information and people wanting to express it right now.
Yeah, and I think that like-minded people are finding like-minded people, and then for those that are, say, awakening a little later than sooner, or than late, a little sooner, you know what I mean? That they're awakening later than sooner, I'll say. That they're finding shows like yourself or mine. Like, I have met so many amazing people that, found a show, and you start talking, and then you connect. Or some of my favorite groups that I have are messenger chats, where there's people from all over the world, because actually, Joe Montaldo, I should give him a shout out, the owner of United Public Radio Network here. He's in New Orleans, Louisiana, and thank him for the spot to be able to do my show. We had this chat one night after my show, and we said that it's almost like you have to go to a different country to find out what's going on in your country news-wise, as well as I will add to that, talking to somebody within that country. That's how you find out things, what's going on. What's your thoughts?
For sure, 100%. Oh man, I was just thinking about that. How, especially right now, with the level of propaganda and everything are shown. Ukraine, perfect example. I mean, they're showing the most ridiculous. They're showing scenes out of movies over there to get us all worked up. They're showing fake stuff. They're showing chicks in bikinis walking around with guns. They're showing fake like explosions from movies, literally.
I know.
Movie sets and fake. It's like, if we're really in a war zone there, why do you have to show us this fake shit? Couldn't you just go outside and turn the camera to an explosion or a war zone? There's been explosions, but you know what? I think explosions are bioweapon plants, and I think this is very precise, the attacks they're doing. I don't think they're going around willy-nilly blowing up Ukrainians. I think that all the bullshit they're showing in the media is to get you to that emotional response. Oh my God, you save Ukraine? No, you're an idiot. They're lying to you like they always do. And it's, you know, anything I've learned, anything you've seen on the mainstream media, it's a stage, it's a set. I mean, look at the Biden presidency, for God's sake. I don't even know if that dude's real half the time when they're putting him on there. You know, the media has become just this cesspool of a false reality portrayal. That's all they do. They portray the reality they want you to believe, and it's all fake. I mean, do you walk outside and, you know, all the horrible stuff you hear, and you know, there's this shooting at this school and this person killing, you know, mother dumped her baby and all this just negative, you know, and then they'll throw in a positive story at the end just to lighten things up. Do you walk out in the street every day and you see this horrible stuff all around you every day? I mean, people killing each other and just like, no, they cherry pick the most awful things to show you, and it's probably a lot of it's probably fakery and lies, you know, because I've come to know that it's all a theater. Not all of it, a lot of it is. But it's all to get elicit an emotional response, to keep you in a certain place, to keep you in line and along with the agendas, and that's all it is. So turn the news off, people. Turn off that damn TV is all I gotta say.
Well, the other thing too that I'm finding is people think it's over. It's done. It's like, it's done. It's done. We're longest 2 years of your life, not even close. People
are gonna have a new way. Wait till fall. They're gonna Jabba or something. I don't know. They're coming up with some other shit. I know.
Well, you know, the same thing, every now and then I'll do a show about prepping because people think you're crazy. Like, I know December 21st, 2012, Dell and I had food, we had water, we had extra stuff, and people thought we were crazy. Not that we told a lot of people, but my point is, even I've pointed out to many Americans when the T-Man was in power. He changed your emergency act. It used to be for 2 weeks. He changed it to 6 months worth of food, medication, water for every person in the US to have stored in case of like an EMP attack or whatever. And most people hadn't seen that. And it was pretty difficult to find. It wasn't quite under FEMA, but it was part of I forget what it was called. I have a copy of it. But he changed that. Like, that should have been mainstream media for people to know that. But my whole point is, it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to go bad. You get some extra, you know, dried food, you know, I'm talking about going to, you know, like the MREs and stuff. I guess you could do that, but we're talking legumes, rice, canned goods, whatever, right? Get some extra water. It doesn't hurt, because a lot of us, look what happened in Texas, like they didn't expect that to happen with the power grid to go down. At least you're prepared, right?
Right. Yeah. And oh man, you said this something about the power grid going down. I've noticed a lot more people are having these problems across the United States, and I think this is going to be one of the very next agendas that come along in the guise of climate change. I think that they are going to start cutting off people's power and blaming it on some kind of weather anomalies or climate change. And they're going to say, well, we need to go to a centralized grid that we control. So you're not using all this power. And if if the climate gets too bad, we can just shut you off and we'll have control over everything, all your electronics. It'll be for your own good. And, because of climate change, the world, it's just all BS. Climate has changed since the world has been here. If we go through cyclical changes on this planet, and there's nothing that's going to stop it. But they're using that under the guise of to set up these systems. I believe that will be coming up soon to another fear tactic. And I think I already believe they control the weather. I believe they're going to start.
Absolutely. Since like the 50s, there's proof of that when you look at it. Same thing I've noticed, for example, at our local Walmart. Many of the cold places, like the refrigerator stuff used to be all open. All of a sudden, they've all got glass doors on them. Like, what's going to happen next? Smart meters for houses. I've talked to a few people out of those over in the UK, including two that had no idea, were booked for it like 3 days later and canceled it. But my whole point is, I believe it might be 7-Elevens where they've got the cameras up there and you can't see what's behind the doors. And somebody pointed out, like, that wouldn't be far away you got to flash something to get, to buy something, right? And I think I'm being very elusive, if you will, because of the channel we're on. But now we're seeing this at Walmart all of a sudden. Like, it's like, why? I've seen
go ahead. No, I was just gonna say that I think that they're gearing up for another big grand deception on a level that we couldn't understand, such as, like, you were just saying they control the weather. I believe they control the weather. I believe that they can also maybe cause cataclysms like earthquakes or trigger a volcano. And I think that's something else that we may have to worry about them, saying, oh, it's a natural event because of climate change, but they did it to perpetuate some new agendas or something.
Well, we are almost out of time. When you come back, we got so many more things to talk about. We barely scratched the surface tonight. I'm so glad you came on, but I knew you were going to have a great discussion, though. And it's interesting how much we're on the same page with a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, sure, definitely.
So you want to go ahead and let people know where they can find you, the network, the whole bit, anything you got coming up, Chris?
Sure, yeah. Forbidden Knowledge News. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. That's also the Forbidden Knowledge Network, where you get all the amazing podcasts from our community. You can find our show on all podcast platforms. We are on YouTube, but limited. We don't put anything controversial on there. We're on Odyssey, but that's the same feed as YouTube. If you want to get all our juicy stuff, the premium content, and all the shows you can't find on YouTube, go to rockfin.com/FKN plus. That's all our premium. But you can get a free account there. And with that free account, you get all the uncensored shows that we can't have on YouTube. So you can still get all our stuff free on Rockfin. And by the way, all our stuff is free anyway. Even our premium shows, we put the audio on the podcast feed so you get to hear it anyway. So we don't keep anything from anybody. So that's where you find all our stuff, I believe. And we're on Facebook and Instagram and all the, I think it's Forbidden Knowledge News 1 on Twitter.
Oh, awesome. And I want to also I want to say thanks to Zach and to Dave for being here, and everybody else that's listening. I always go to my profile and there's been a bunch of people commenting, and I don't know why it won't show up on StreamYard. It should, but it doesn't. So I want to thank everybody that's listening. If you ever want to get a hold of me, you can reach out to me at facebook.com/The Angel Rock. I have 2 groups on Facebook: Paranormal University for all things paranormal, Angel Rocker Tribe for many of the topics we've covered are covered between the 2 groups, including the power of the mind, how to access your own gifts, things like that. So I will be back next week with another amazing guest for all of you. I want to thank you all for your support. Don't forget to support our YouTube channel with our premium content. You can find out all about that under UFO Paranormal Radio on our channel on YouTube. And I want to send you all so much love and light. I want to thank Chris again, and have a good morning, good afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.